Welcome to The Flirty Vegan, the podcast that motivates you to thrive through plant-based living. I'm your host, Jenny Shafitz, certified life, breathwork, and vegan lifestyle coach. After decades of dieting and deprivation, I found the secret to living a compassionate, nourished life. Whether you've been vegan for years or you're just flirting with the idea, prepare to be inspired by real people who courageously chose health and love. It's time to look better, feel better, and do better. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Flirty Vegan Podcast. My name is Jenny Shafitz. I'm your host, and I want to wish you a very happy holiday season. No matter what you celebrate, or if you celebrate nothing at all, I hope that this season is bringing you love, peace, and all the good fortune that you deserve. I am also a certified life, breathwork, and vegan lifestyle coach, which means I gently support you on your journey to get healthier, feel more love and compassion, and also reduce the amount of animals that you consume, use, and wear. And I do all this by teaching and guiding and living the vegan lifestyle because plant-based eating and living is so plentiful. We're talking fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, spices. Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot. And as a coach, my goal is to inspire, encourage, and educate because, quick story, over Thanksgiving, I brought some vegan dishes to my family event. And like many people, they have the idea that if something's vegan, then it must be gross, lacking taste, texture, and overall desirability. So I asked a member of my family, "Do you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?" And the person responded, "Why, yes, of course I do." And I said, "Did you know that a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is vegan?" And it was as if I had discovered fire. I mean, this person, as smart and well-traveled as he is, did not know PB&J is vegan. So I say that to hopefully bring some humor to this conversation, but also to acknowledge you. If you are someone who doesn't know what's vegan and what isn't, and you're just basing it on the fact that there might be a cupcake at a local bakery that's vegan and you tried it and didn't like it, that's not all vegan food is. And it's not fair. Just like you might have a regular animal-based cupcake that isn't good and you still go on to try other ones, I would invite the same for vegan food. You know, true story, I got sick after eating a chicken dish at the Olive Garden in 1998 or 99, and what I did was swear off Olive Garden for the rest of my life. But I didn't swear off chicken. So we make excuses, we make exceptions when something doesn't taste good when it's a typical animal-based product. And I'm just asking that you do the same for vegan items. And if you join me in my new program starting January 6th, I hope that I will teach and entice you to try more plant-based foods because I love to eat and I still get to have tacos, pizza, burgers, pasta dishes, desserts. I just do it all without harming animals. So coming from me, an experienced dieter, an experienced carnivore, and an experienced bakery business owner who used to devour buttercream frosting and cookie dough like it was my job, I get it. I get that you are steeped in tradition, convenience, habit, and the very loud, very intrusive marketing noise. I get it. But I would love for you to try this 6-week experiment with me. That's all. So check the show notes for the link or go directly to theflirtyvegan.com/group program and just join now. As a special holiday gift, I am so excited to bring you this conversation with my new friend, Thomas Wade Jackson. I was absolutely shocked and delighted when he accepted my invitation to appear on this show, and I hope that you will check out his documentary film, A Prayer for Compassion. It is phenomenal, and I have seen a lot of documentaries, so this is a recommendation you can trust. Now, I do want to give you a warning that this conversation has a couple moments that might be triggering. We do discuss the killing of animals for food. And frankly, if you are a meat eater, I think it's wise for you to know where your food comes, to know how it gets to your plate. So I hope you don't shy away from this conversation just because there are a couple instances of graphic description. But otherwise, it is a conversation about compassion and spirituality and the many benefits of being a vegan. Thomas Wade Jackson is an award-winning filmmaker and musician, best known for his animal rights documentaries, A Prayer for Compassion, which I just mentioned, and the docuseries Compassion in Action, Bringing the Elixir Home. A passionate advocate for compassion and veganism, Thomas has spent years blending his creative talents with his commitment to a kinder world. Recently, he has returned to his first love, music, leading the folk rock band Sunshine Lemonade, and using his art to inspire positive change through uplifting, soul-stirring songs. Thomas is a down-to-earth, passionate, humorous, loving individual who has devoted his life to bringing about positive change in the world. So settle in for this wonderful conversation and be sure to check the show notes for all of Thomas's links because you will definitely want to dive deeper. With that, I bring you my conversation with Thomas Wade Jackson. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of The Flirty Vegan. I am super excited to be here with someone I deeply admire. His work is profound and moving and so important in the world. So, Thomas Jackson, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. I'm happy to be here.
This is a real thrill for me. So, I'm just gonna hope my voice doesn't go too high as I'm really excited. Okay, so before we even get into any of your story, your work, all the complexity of everything, I'd like to start off by asking you, because this show is called The Flirty Vegan, for people that are flirting with the idea of going vegan for whatever reason, it's important to me to cover all the different reasons that people choose this lifestyle. So I would like to begin by asking you, what attracted you to veganism?
Wow, that's a great question, and I love your title. Like, that's a great
Thank
title.
you. Thank you.
And as you explain it, it has even more depth. I love the idea of
Yeah,
people flirting with veganism.
right.
Um, for me, it was an accident. It just happened. It was a spiritual thing that happened. I was living in New York City at the time, and I was a volunteer coordinator at a Unity church, and I was starting a regular daily meditation practice, and being from South Georgia. I grew up watching animals being killed for food. Like I saw my grandma wringing the necks of chickens and things like that. And so inside, I was aware of it. There was actually this time where I saw my cousins lived in another town and he had raised rabbits. And I went over to visit me and they gave me some baby rabbits, a couple. And they were my pets and I kept them. And then they came to visit a few months later. And I guess they had been raising them for meat and stuff because in front of me, my cousin, who was just a few years older than me, like hit him in the head with a hammer and all this stuff. And I'm looking at my dad and looking at my uncle, and I'm thinking inside, like, I guess that's what it is to be a man. You got to bury that thing. So I think at that time I started burying all these feelings. So once I started meditating every day, it became this awareness that when I went to eat that piece of chicken, I was like, oh, yeah, that was an animal. And here I am trying to become a more peaceful person. I want to be a more spiritual person, and it just didn't feel in alignment. And so I had heard this was in 2005 before YouTube, and I had heard what vegetarian was. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
actually had been vegetarian a little bit in film school, but I didn't know what vegan was. So I just said, I'm going to be a vegetarian. And within 2 weeks of being a vegetarian, I went to a deli and ordered something, and I was so proud that I was vegetarian. I was like, make sure it's vegetarian. And the guy was like, vegetarian or vegan? And it's funny, I don't think the guy was either vegetarian. He might have been, but
Right, right. He
you
just knew
know,
his stuff. Yeah, he was
yeah,
a good deli owner.
exactly. He lived in New York City, and he
Right,
knew what that word was, and
right.
so. my mind immediately went vegan. Like that just it seemed like something out of Star Trek or something, like may the vegan be with you or whatever.
Yes.
But I just remember a little voice in the back of my head, probably the voice that I was starting to listen to in meditation or
Yeah.
whatever. I just remember
Hmm.
this little thing going, I don't know why yet, why people would choose that, but I knew if people were doing that, there was probably a deep reason that I just could feel that, I could feel the deepness behind it, even though I didn't understand it in some way. And I told him, I said, make it vegan. And, is it, let's see, 2005, like 20 years later,
Wow. Wow.
I'm still
You,
vegan. And
it's so interesting how you said that you had already begun the meditation practice. So you were already on this spiritual path, which then led you to the moment in the deli where you heard the word and you were like, yeah, that's it.
yeah,
Because unlike you, I did hear the word vegan many, many years ago. I remember being in college in the 90s and I was at somebody's birthday party. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, the person who was responsible for bringing the birthday cake to this party said she went to the store and they were all out of regular birthday cakes. So she had to get the vegan one. And
mm,
we were all like, oh, that's gross. Like, this tastes like crap. This is disgusting. And it was just so we could really have something to put candles on and light. I don't know that anyone enjoyed it. Again, this was in the 90s. Things have changed, recipes have evolved. But at that point in my life, I was not open to hearing that word. But like you, I had started this spiritual journey only 5 years ago or 5.5 years ago. I had started this journey. And then when it crossed my radar, I had that moment like you in the deli, like, yeah, that's it. That
yeah.
that's that's for me.
Yeah, and I would actually probably wonder if that cake actually tasted good and it was in everybody's head because I've met so many people.
Yes.
Actually, I have like I don't want to name my brother-in-law, but we were one Christmas we had made this some vegan stuff, and he was going getting all the stuff, and somebody said, he said, "Oh, what's that? It looked really good." And somebody said, "Oh, that's Wade's vegan stuff," and
Mm,
he went, "Oh, he just recalled."
never mind. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, it
yeah.
was like the way I would jump back from like a dead piece of animal, he
Right.
jumped back like there was something gross or disgusting about it. So I really think so much of it is in people's mind. Oh, how can, you know, this cake be good without an egg? You got to have an egg
Right.
in it. Like,
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
with you there. So, you said something in that initial story that I want to bring up that was not part of my thought process at all for this conversation, but it's so interesting. So you commented on your family with the rabbits, and you said that you had a thought of, well, I guess that's what it is to be a man. That is so interesting to me because I feel like that is so pervasive in
But,
society.
and by the way, I just a grown up. It was
Oh,
like
okay.
cleaning the fish, all of it, like all the
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and like my grandma wringing the necks of chickens.
Yep.
Like it wasn't just men. Like it
Okay,
wasn't a
okay,
manly thing. It was like to grow up, you've got to put these feelings of lovey-dovey and get
okay.
real. You got to survive. Like I'm probably not far from like when they were really having, the Great Depression and all that. Like I'm sure my grandparents went through that and it was rough. And so
Yeah,
there was this mentality of you got to do it.
okay. Okay. So I mean, your grandmother was involved in that, but for the most part, I feel like as a society, there is this kind of like a cloud of that people are under of what it is to be a man. This
Mhm.
identity of hunting, fishing. There's things I've heard I know it amongst my community, and I've heard it in others, like a meat night where all the guys will get together and consume as much meat as possible. So, what is it about men and meat?
It's a cultural thing, I imagine, like every commercial that has a big steak grilling, and it's like it used to be with the cigarettes. They didn't
Right.
have like a sickly man smoking the cigarette. They have the macho man, like
Yep, the
so
Marlboro Man. Yeah.
it's a cultural image, and
Yeah.
And our culture is full of the idea that men have to be tough and have to be competitive. And I think a lot of it's changing. I
Mm,
feel like in the new generations, a lot of it's changing. There's a lot of stuff that may be for the good, better or worse, but like they say there's less drinking, there's less things going on now than what we had. And so I'd like to think that there's some good in that. It's not just because everybody's on their cell phones, but it could just be that everybody's on their cell phones. I don't know. They could just all be made. They could just all be anxiety. There's a lot more
yeah,
anxiety. There's a lot more fear. So, but I'd like to think that there's also a lot more information. That's why I think more people are going vegan and more people will go
yeah,
vegan
yeah,
because the information's out there.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point. It's an interesting thing for me with this new rebrand of the show is in my former iteration, did not interview men. My
Mm,
show was focused on women's inspiring stories to be relatable. So I showcased women who had overcome challenges and demonstrated inner strength and resilience and real motivation for other people, whatever they're dealing with in their life. But, I heard you mention in another interview Spider-Man and Luke Skywalker. And I don't know if you remember that conversation.
yeah. Give
I'll
me a
reference.
little more.
So what you were saying is when it comes to Star Wars, there was Luke, but really the message to take away was the force is within all of us. And then with Spider-Man, we had that very memorable with great power comes great responsibility. Do you remember having that conversation where you mentioned those two?
I don't remember who was I talking. Do you remember who I was talking to?
I believe that was the conversation with James some oh God. I should check it. He
Probably
was
in 2019 or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was to promote the movie.
Right.
And I found that really interesting because that is what prompted me to change this show from the powerful stories of women to really owning my vegan values. It's like I felt this force within me
Mm,
and also this responsibility. Like
yeah.
I have to tune out whatever opposition might be coming my way. I had to tune it out, all the naysayers, and know that this force, this need to promote vegan values and vegan heroes, really people like you, that is my duty, my responsibility. And so it's I just when I heard you talk about those two things in that interview, I was like, that's it. That's why I did this.
You know what? The only thing I can think of is that around that time, the newer Star Wars was coming out, like The Force Awakens and stuff. And
Yeah, yeah,
and what I was noticing about those is like the early Star Wars, you had like the Jedi, and the Force was always in the Jedi and Luke. But in The Force Awakens, the Force was in other people. Like you had, it just you didn't have to be a Jedi to use the Force. And
right,
so,
right.
and I think the whole idea of The Force Awakens was the
Yeah,
idea of, and so. I think at the time I was thinking, hopefully in our culture, we will take that to heart and we'll all start tuning into the force, to the whatever you want to call it, to the field of infinite possibility, to God, to Goddess, to whatever terminology. I don't think the terminology matters as much as the tuning in matters, I think.
exactly, exactly. Going back to the meditation and the spirituality, and that we do have a lot of these ideas brewing within us, but messaging, societal messaging, especially I think toward men, tells you push it down, block it out. You don't want to be I don't know, like a wuss or, a sensitive type. Like real men kill animals and eat them. But let's listen to the voice that you experience saying, I don't know if this is I don't know if this is necessary. I don't know if this is right.
Yeah, we all have the voice and we all have the calling. I think, but we live in a culture where there's so much distraction. There's so many, I mean, I am guilty of like getting onto some kind of thing and being consumed. I could consume podcast all day as well. I can just,
Yeah.
so, but I just really know for me, finding a little time every day just to honor that little moment of tuning in makes a huge difference. It's not about like I'm not doing 10-hour meditation sessions or going for weekend meditation retreats.
Right.
You know, it's for most people it's not practical. It's hard to find that time, but to just find that 15 minutes or whatever. The other thing, as you get older, you have to exercise and you have to move the body. Like I have these, making the documentary and the docuseries, I came up with what I call my 4 pillars of well-being because I was kind of tuning in to,
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm going to encourage people to be more spiritual and to have more compassion for themselves and others, then I need to kind of apply it to myself. And so I whittled it down to these 4 things that really keep me balanced and kind of on track. And the first one would be eating a healthy plant-based diet where you're getting all your nutrients. The more you dial that in, I'm
Yeah.
constantly finding a new thing to bring in, and
Right.
the better you're going to feel from that. And there's so much information now, you can get a little here, a little there, and it doesn't have to be all at once, but tune it in. I think the processed vegan meats and all that's wonderful for people transitioning, and occasionally I might have one now, but I really have moved away from all of that and really tried to get more whole foods, and I
Yeah.
can tell a difference. So the diet is one of the 4. The other would be exercise. Especially as you get older, you got to keep the circulation going. You got to, Dr. Greger's got just put some stuff out on bone density and stuff and how impact
Yeah.
and weight bearing exercise is like key.
Mm.
So having those things and then meditation, prayer, meditation, just making sure you tune into whatever spiritual side you have of yourself, reminding yourself that, you're not these thoughts and you're not this body and you're not this doing being here. You are an infinite being that's connected to all things. And just for a minute, tuning in and honoring that. I actually have these little, I've never really done a whole bunch of yoga like officially. I do it on my own. Like I kind
Yeah.
of I do some of the yoga poses and I have my own kind of things that
Great.
I've developed, but I've done a couple of things, but there's a couple Kundalini chants that I do every day. I'll
Mm.
do rounds of 3 with those and then a little like an ah kind of thing after those and feel all, so it kind of like clears the mind out and it gets the vibrations going. So those 3 things, you add on sleep, making sure you get your rest. And
Hmm.
it's really hard to get thrown off. It can be hard to get those 4 things in on a regular sometimes, but the more I can do them, and the little yoga thing I do, the poses I do, they are keep my back and stuff. Like if I get sedentary, like during the quarantine, there was a period
Yeah.
I didn't get to the gym. I was trying to do some stuff at home, but it wasn't. I just could feel like the first time I took a long drive, like I could feel my
Oh,
sciatica and stuff. I was like, what the
yeah.
heck's that about?
You're
But you're
right.
getting older, dude. You gotta
Yep.
honor that temple and take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cliche, but it's like use it or lose it. Like
Yeah.
you gotta take care of this vessel.
And you
And
feel better. And you feel
oh,
better. Like once you do it, like it's not hard to keep doing it because once you know
exactly.
the results, especially if you feel more creative, you feel more tuned into, your spiritual self. Like I
Yes.
don't know how to
Yeah.
say it, but
You
I
just did. Yeah.
yeah.
It's awesome. So that brings me to this question of, you have these amazing practices. That's fantastic. However that works intuitively, you do these things. That's an amazing thing for your daughter to witness. And you've talked about your daughter. That's not, we don't keep her hidden in the background. She was in the movie, and it's so obvious how much she means to you. And I think most parents would say that they would do anything for their kids and they want a better life for their kids than the one they've known. Now, given the percentage of vegans in the world, we know it's tiny. It's safe to say that the majority of people walking around don't know about factory farming, animals in science, animals used for fashion. But those of us who do know, we know that veganism is more than just food. There is a massive social justice aspect to this lifestyle. And given everything that you do and your relationship with your daughter, can you maybe illuminate for the audience what veganism has to do with social justice, family, the connection between parents and children, that that they're not just isolated aspects of a life, but that they are so intricately connected.
I will see if I can answer that. I will start by saying, being a parent is life changing, and if you've seen the documentary "A Prayer for Compassion," which I know you have, but if the listeners have seen it, you will know that it was inspired by my daughter. The whole fact I was vegan for 8 years before she was born, and 2 years, about a year and a half after she was born, I saw Cowspiracy and realized I didn't know it. I went vegan for the spiritual aspect. I had no idea about the environmental aspect, and that freaked me out
Yeah.
as a parent. I was 45 when my daughter was born, and I was like, man, like I don't know how much time I have on this planet with her. Her sister's dad had got murdered like when she was 2 weeks old in this it was this awful incident that happened, and he
Wow.
was like 10 years younger than me. And so right away, I was like, I don't know how much time I have with her. That's why when I discovered what was happening with the environment, I realized it was no longer just about live and let live. It had to be live and educate and help people understand. So I think the way it's social justicely, like now that I've been around and kind of seen the situation from many angles, like I kind of think there's like five major reasons people should consider veganism and should really be vegan. One would be the environment, because we are living on a planet that has limited resources, and animal agriculture is an industry that is number one in polluting the water, number one in using the water. It's number one in polluting our air, number one in deforestation
Yeah.
and dead zones in the oceans. Like it's just a no-brainer that our planet is a living organism that if it quits living, we're not living. Like
Right?
and it will come back, but we as a species, like we could make ourselves extinct if
Yeah.
we don't wake up at some point. It's more than the food, it's so much more the consumption and all. But number one, leading the charge is the animal agriculture. So I would say that would be our like overall, we're all together, we're all in this house that's on fire. We need to address this or we're not going to be here. But then you get to the health aspect and look at all the epidemics that we're going through and how it affects the health. I mean, one thing I can tell you, interviewing so many people that went vegan and so many doctors along the way, I have so many people that had lifestyle diseases. I mean, and lupus and every
Yep.
kind of thing you can imagine, that you wouldn't consider as a lifestyle disease even was reversed and healed
Yes.
by changing what they were consuming. So like for me, the hardest part of being vegan now is watching people I love on medications and suffering and dying.
Hmm.
My cousin recently died, who's like 10 or 12 years younger than I am, and he just has these two young daughters they had
Mm.
adopted. And, it just breaks my heart because he passed of lupus. And in 2019, I met an amazing doctor who had healed herself of lupus,
Yeah.
and she had a whole protocol. When my dad told me he had lupus, I reached out to him about it, and I know he never took any action
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And then, 4 or 5 years later, he'd passed. And I had the same thing with my dad, where I had this long talk with him about health and these things, and then he ended up passing a few years after that. So for me, the hardest part is knowing that these are unnecessary sufferings that
Yeah.
people I love are going through. So that in itself, the health aspect, that would be number three, I think.
Two.
Is it two?
Environment, health.
Yeah, okay. And then you want to talk social justice, it's the people that work in the
Yeah.
meat industry and the things. A lot of them are people who don't have full rights. A lot of them are illegal, and not even them illegal immigrants, and just because nobody wants a job, nobody. There's studies that
Well, it's
show
a job that shouldn't exist.
exactly. And the people that are doing it, there's studies that show in those communities there's more abuse of
Yep.
their families because of dealing with all this
The
violence. Like
trauma. Yeah.
exactly. There's so much health-wise. If we go back to to like dairy is one of the worst things health wise, and you can explain it by the case and morphines and different
Yeah.
things scientifically. But for me, I think karmically, it's the worst. When you take mothers from children and you are killing babies, and like, no wonder, like when I went vegan, one of the things I felt was there was energy in the food I was eating. There was
Yeah.
sadness. There was like, I could just feel like this is sad. Like this is death. This does not feel affirming, life affirming at all. And
Right.
so I think people who work in that industry, not only is it dangerous, they move fast, there's a lot of injuries, but psychologically, so that would be, I guess, the third one we're talking about, the people. Another one would be the pandemics and the
Mm,
epidemics, the fact that, these factory farms are breeding grounds for the next bird flu or something
yep.
that's way more deadly than what we went through with the COVID virus. So that was our four one, right? So that's four
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
And I guess everybody can guess what number five would be because of the dang animals that we're hurting, man. Like,
Duh.
I should start with that, but I just like, look, that's
Yeah.
to me, that's it. Like, most people have pets or know people who have pets, and I just want to invite you. Imagine going and taking a knife and slitting the throat of your dog. Like, I don't care how hungry you were, you would probably start eating grass before you would slit the throat of your damn dog. And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
making the film was the first time I went to animal sanctuaries. And I'm gonna tell you, so I didn't really, all the animals I met that were farm animals before this were in shock and they were in the system. And so I never really got to see the cow's
Mm,
personality and the pig's personality and the ones that are respected as beings that like they have as much or more personality than your dog, or than your
right.
cat. And
Yeah.
if you have a pet, you see, it's obvious.
Right.
So for me, like, I don't know if to answer your questions, but those are for me
Yeah.
five solid reasons. I'm sure there's way more. I'm
Oh,
sorry. There's one more. I think I
oh,
lumped it in with the workers, or maybe I only gave you four. It's world hunger. It's the fact
mm,
that there's so
yes.
much food that we are
Yes.
growing and feeding the animals. Like the animals eat
I,
5 times the food that people
I,
eat.
yes. And I don't mean to interrupt you. I
Yeah.
held up this book, Eat for the Planet,
Yeah.
because it is astounding the statistics about how much land and how much water are used to produce animal products versus anything else. It's like,
Yeah.
it's horrifying.
It's crazy. I want to say it's 400 gallons for hamburger, something like that, because Melody made a little video one time for Animal Hero Kids that was about
Oh,
how much water it took to make one hamburger. It's
yeah.
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And so just to go back to the injustice of the workers, I came across an interesting piece of information recently. Again, we don't think about these things. Disconnect is lovely. I mean, ignorance truly is bliss. It's a wonderful thing to go about your life buying leather shoes and eating pizza and just not thinking. But I saw this picture the other day of a little boy, I believe it was in Bangladesh, working at a some sort of tannery, which again, a
Hmm.
regular person walking around doesn't even know what that like I'd heard that word throughout my life. I don't know what the heck a tannery is. I don't think about how leather products are made. But it was showing this kid in a vat of chemical solution doing some sort of I don't know, pounding of the hide so that you could remove the fur, because your leather shoes aren't furry, they're soft and smooth. The cow's hair or fur had to be removed. So
Hmm.
it's showing this kid in a pool of disgusting chemical stuff, and the whole point being, we talk about sweatshops being a bad idea, and oh, fair trade, fair labor, living wage. Okay, that's great. We don't think about the kid. It's bad enough that he's young, but he's sitting in a solution that is toxic enough to pull the fur off of the hide.
Yeah.
What is that doing to him?
Yeah.
How sickening is that?
It goes right into your bloodstream. I mean, what you put on your skin goes into your blood. So it's definitely probably killing that kid. It's some
I,
toxic stuff that they
right.
do.
And so that makes me think, like I keep going back to, you're a father, I'm a mother, and I'm sure that little boy's parents don't want a bad life for him. They don't have a choice. That's what everyone has to do in that little kid's community. That's his horrible fate. But I feel like parents listening, I I'm hoping this just strikes a little bit that, as a consumer, as someone who votes with their wallet, when you buy leather bags and beef and eggs, you're contributing.
Yeah, you said it all right there. Voting with your dollar. That's the
Yeah.
biggest vote you're going to make for sure. Yeah, what kind of world do you want? When you vote for that cruelty, you're voting for a cruel world, basically.
Sorry to interrupt this phenomenal episode, but I gotta ask, are you ready to make positive, lasting changes to your health in this new year? I know every year you say you're gonna do it, and then a couple weeks goes by and wah wah, life gets in the way, so many excuses. But what if you could join a group program with like minded people and a fabulous, knowledgeable, and cheerleader type coach that would support you in making gradual changes that will massively impact your health and the planet? If that sounds good to you, then please head to theflirtyvegan.com/group program or click the link in the show notes. Here's to a healthy, happy, and compassionate new year. Now let's get back to the show.
You mentioned the word karma, and while I don't believe there's any actual scientific studies yet proving that you're ingesting the mood and vibration of what that item is, I think you and I would both agree that it's there. Whether there's science to prove it or not, it's there.
I think the some science is to do with, I don't know if it's the cortisol or something that's released with fear and stuff, like that there's actual chemicals that we release when we are in fear and
Right. Yeah.
traumatized. So I don't know if there's research that shows how that affects people if you eat it, but I think
Right.
there's research that shows it's there.
Right, 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 right. And so you and I believe that if you're eating the chemicals, the hormones from an animal that was literally scared to death, scared of dying, it was on that plank and seeing its death and hearing the death of its friends, by eating that, wouldn't you think that we're now carrying those neurotransmitters with us? Wouldn't that make
Yeah,
sense?
for me, like I said, that's a scientific way you might can explain it, but to me, it's a spiritual way. Like I kind
Right.
of look at it this way: our souls know, whether we look at something or not, our souls know when you ingest this that that was an animal that had a reason to be here, that had its own feelings, its own life, and
Yeah.
we took that life. Whether you want to look at it or not, I think our souls know it. And I think that's where a lot of depression comes from. I think a lot of anxiety. I used to have so much anxiety and depression around things that I don't feel anymore. I think that was related to what I was ingesting in my body. Once you go vegan, like so many people, when they go vegan for their health, they don't think about the animals at all. But what I notice when I interview people like that is like within 6 months or something, their heart starts to soften. They're no longer complicit in this, and they're able to see the animals in a new way and feel the connection in a new way. I've seen it over and over. Like it's magical.
That is so beautiful. I'm so glad you said that. And I would agree that for myself. I am one of those people who went vegan for the environment. I didn't know as much about the factory farming and when I first made it. I saw a nature documentary. I saw the devastation of the rainforest and the dead zones in the ocean that you talked about. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have a choice. I gotta fix this. Cause again, like you said, I want this planet to still be here for my kids when they're my age. And the way we're going, it's not going to be. And then it was, I don't remember, I didn't look at a calendar, but however long later that I started looking at my own dogs, who I already loved. I mean, I had dogs, but I started to look at them differently. I started to drive by farm animals and look at them differently. It was this overwhelming love and connection that I didn't experience before I started not eating those things.
Yeah. Like Dr. Will Tuttle talks about being indoctrinated into the violence, you
Yeah.
know, it's just part of our culture and it's just seen as normal.
Yes.
And to go against it, it may, like if you follow your soul, you would go against it, but mentally, it takes a challenge. Like one
Yeah.
of the things I learned making the docuseries, talking to people, because like psychologists and different people trying to understand why it's hard for people to make that shift, being that to me it was just this thing that happened. Like so, but
Hmm.
as I interview people, I understand it doesn't happen like that with everybody. Some people
Right.
it takes them years, like,
Yeah.
to give up the cheese. I've quit everything but the cheese. I
Yep.
finally got the cheese,
Yep.
so I realized that there was something going on, and I think what it is like we're a tribal people, and we lived in caves or something one time. We lived in these things, and
Yeah.
if you got ostracized from your tribe, you would probably starve or get eaten by an animal. You would die.
Mhm.
We need each other. So there's this tribal thing I think in us that when we go against something it's so indoctrinated into our tribe, it's scary, and even if we don't consciously understand it, we feel this fear, and I think that's what keeps the majority of people from
Hmm.
being able to look at veganism in a way and at the why anybody would go vegan. Even if you don't look
Yeah.
at veganism, look at those 5 or 6 things that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You might want to consider it,
Yeah.
you know.
So I've mentioned I watch a lot of documentaries. I've seen a lot of documentaries over the last 5 years of this journey for me. And I have to say, your movie, A Prayer for Compassion, is at the top of the list. I mean, it's not focused a whole lot on factory farming, it's not focused a whole lot on health. It's this beautiful message of compassion. And I think since it's Christmas, it's the holiday season, I think it's a really important message for us to address. And I will tell you, Thomas, one scene from that movie, and I hope everyone listening makes it a point to watch this movie, especially right now, this time of year, if you've got your kids home from college or family gathered. This movie is spectacular. Please, A Prayer for Compassion. I will put a link in the show notes. The scene where you were in New York City, I it looked to me like Times Square, I think, and you approached a gentleman to ask about, do you know, I think it was like, do you know how, do you think cows produce milk all the time? I think that was
We
the
know.
topic. I
Yeah.
think that was the topic you addressed. And he said, what are you talking? No, I don't. You said, well, there's videos, or, if you could look at factory farming and see the why female cows produce milk all the time, because this happens and that happens and all the horrors of it. And he suggested that that is vegan propaganda. I guess
I
in
need
our
to look.
day,
I need to check into that.
okay, in our
I
day
think
and
that's what he
age,
said. I need to look into that.
yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah,
know if I can just trust some guy on the street telling me
right,
this.
right, right, right.
But I
Suggesting
mean,
maybe
that was
it's
the
fake
perfect
news.
response. Because I'm sure we've all gotten that response before, where somebody says, "I need to. I don't trust you."
But what stood out for me is how unbelievably compassionate you were. You didn't lose your mind. You didn't attack. You didn't get offensive, defensive. You just said, "Oh, can I give you a hug?" I just, I need you to speak about compassion and share what it means, how you present it, the significance of it.
Okay, I'll tell you. I don't know if I've told the story. I might have told it, but I should tell it because honestly, when I was starting to make the movie, like I was inspired by Cowspiracy. I was inspired by filmmakers who could get the person to stick their foot in their mouth. You know what I mean? Like, because it's just so, it shows that they don't know what they're talking about. It shows that they're totally have their own agenda. Whatever. There's so many ways that there's this gotcha moment that documentary filmmakers have done. And when I came into this, I thought I'm going to get these religious people. I'm going to make them. They're going to say why it's vegan, and I'm going to stick it in their face. Whatever. it wasn't quite like that, but I was thinking I'm going to do like Michael Moore. I'm going to do like, Kip Anderson. I'm going to do
Yeah.
this kind of sensational moment because I love those things.
Yeah.
However, Dr. Silas Rao had invited me to go to the UN Climate Change Conference in Morocco. And this is not in the that's in the documentary, but what's not in the documentary is the first day there, I had a hard time getting over there. It was like I lost my bags at one point. It was like 30 something hours to get over there. I was so tired. It was the day I left the day of the presidential election. When I finally woke up, I got there in the middle of the night and he woke up and said, "We have have a Trump president or whatever." Like, so at the climate conference, that was a big deal because that was going to pull us out of the Paris Accord. So there was a lot of stuff going on that day. But we went to this panel that was about religions and the ocean, and they had like a Buddhist person, a Muslim person, a Christian person, and they weren't vegan, but they were all building a case about the ocean and religion or whatever. And so there was the Muslim man. He was a man from Wales, and he was a sweet gentleman. He said some things. I'm going to interview him. I was about to get him. He lined it up. I was I can't even remember what it was, but because of what happened next, but he lined it up for me, and I knew this is my moment. That here at the UN climate conference, all this conflict already going on, like I'm ready to nail this guy. And so he comes out to interview him, and we're setting up this equipment, and there's all these people around, and suddenly I start feeling like I've never passed out in my life, but I'm going to pass out. I think like I didn't know if I was gonna have a heart die or something. There was this moment I was thinking I'm making this movie about veganism and here I am about the what's going on. And so I I told the guy, I said just make sure my equipment's okay, and then I passed out. Like I say, and I wake up and they're carrying me to the this infirmary or whatever, and then they end up taking me in an ambulance to a hospital to do EKG, and this guy comes with me the whole time and stays with me. And
Ooh.
so I'm in the hospital room and I'm trying to finally say, look, you need to go back. You need to go back. You're missing this conference. But I'll tell you, first of all, when they were carrying me on the stretcher, that's when I was like, what's going on here? I'm making this movie about veganism and here I am having a heart attack, I might, or something going on, I might die. And then something in my mind, I started hearing like, look, you're making a movie about compassion. Yet you were just about to attack this guy. You can't make a movie about compassion and attack anybody.
Oof.
It was like I was brought down to my nothing,
Mm.
and the only thing that I got from that was this is what this is about, man. And the fact that he stayed with me the whole time. And I finally got him to go. I said, just go back because my phone wasn't working. I just got over there and it didn't connect or
Yeah.
whatever. And I didn't have any way to tell Silas what had happened. And I was supposed to go video him at this thing. I said, just go back and let Silas know or whatever. And as soon as he agreed and he started walking out the door, Silas walks in the door. It's just amazing timing that just this one of those synchronistic moments where this is all divine. This is all the way it's supposed to be. I can remember also in that ambulance going, "Oh, I think the documentary's over, man. What is this going to cost me? In the United States, it would be over. I don't have, it didn't cost me nothing. They didn't even ask my name, insurance, nothing. They took care of me, took me to the hospital, let me go. So all these experiences were wonderful, but it
Wow.
was a little scary at the beginning. And I'll tell you another thing that happened too, is right when it started happening, I thought of my daughter and I thought of the movie and I thought of all these things. But there was a part of me, something came over me and said, if it's your time, that's okay. It's all going to be okay. I felt this total thing that don't worry about any of that. It's okay. And then that's when I passed out and woke up going, why am I? And then the whole thing about compassion came in. So I would say compassion to me, and the reason you saw me hug his neck, I think that might have been after that. Another thing too is like, who am I like to judge? Like for 30 something years, man, I ate animals. I did all of that. Like I was indoctrinated into the same
Yeah.
system as that person. I have no right to judge anybody. And so, and you're
Mm.
not going to reach anybody if your judgment. I'll tell you just really quick about the docuseries interviewing Dr. Claire Mann, who's a psychologist. She said this thing about whenever people feel judged or any kind of negative feeling, the blood rushes to the back of our brain, to the reptilian fight or flight mode kind of thing. but the amazing part that she told me was that there's this thing called the contagion effect, that we're so connected that if you walk up to somebody and they are the blood's in the back of their head, there's unless you're like really tuned in and present, it's easy to go to the back of your head. That's why you can be around somebody and suddenly feel like I just got to get away from here, or I got to hit this person, or what. You don't even know, and you don't know where that came from. It could be somebody else's, you know. So that's why learning this has helped me a lot. Like I really don't argue with people in the same way anymore. I totally just stay calm. They're great tools to learn, and so that's a scientific reason you might want to lead with compassion, because if you
Mm.
don't, you could, if you lead with like, you're a problem, you're part of the problem, the judgment you're holding against that person they may not hear anything you're saying after that, because when the blood's in the back of your head, you're not hearing, you're wanting just to make this be over,
Mm.
you know. And I witnessed something where right after I learned that, where I was at a campground and some stuff was going on, and I needed to call the law enforcement people because something was happening on my land, but I wasn't in the same town. And when I called 911, they said, "Oh, what's your zip code?" And I was so worried about somebody burning down this thing that I couldn't remember my zip code. It's something I punch in every day. And that's when I realized, oh, the blood's in the back of my head. I just started relaxing, and then it came to my head. But that's when I got to physically experience what she was talking about. But
Wow.
if you see the docuseries, there's a lot of information on there that's designed for activists. We go to different visuals and to different, like going into Walmart with a dog on a barbecue, you know, with a bunch of activists, and we go to all kinds of animal sanctuaries and vegan events. So the documentary it has a lot of heavy stuff in it. The docuseries is more lighter in the sense it's us, me and Melody, and taking the movie around and meeting a lot of amazing vegans. So if you haven't seen the docuseries, I'd recommend it for that reason. And also it's got a lot of information to help become a more effective activist and to
Oh.
have self-compassion. I didn't really get to cover self-compassion in the peripheral compassion, so there was a lot more of that in the docuseries.
Mm. That's so good.
Yeah, I think what resonated with so many people is if you, it all stemmed from that meditation and the idea of once I learned about the environment, of my thoughts of how can spiritual and religious people participate. It was just a question I had, like, how can they participate in something that's doing so much to destroy the environment, human health, you know, not to mention the suffering of the animals. Like, so that's what I went out to try to answer. And I think why it resonated, because especially with vegans, because most vegans have dealt with someone religious who's probably used religion as a reason. Like, you know, well, God made animals for us to eat. We have
I
dominion over the animals. Like,
hmm
so, and growing up religious, like I had people like that too. So I felt so much love from people who like had the same questions and had gone through the same teasing or whatever you might want to call it, to be able to have something they can look at and have a Christian person saying, well, actually in the Bible, dominion is this, you know, and actually, and then have the different religions and realize, you know, like, 'cause I'll tell you, I believe that at least in Christianity and in the Bible, you can find somewhere in there where you can justify just about anything. You know what I mean? Like, but
hmm
if you look at the foundation, the ideal from the beginning, it's sets up. We were in the very in Genesis, we were meant to eat plants. You know, it says it, and then three verses before it says eat plants is when it says we have dominion. So it's like, okay, you have dominion, but eat plants, you know? So it
hmm
kind of cancels that idea of dominion means you can do whatever you want. Dominion means like God has dominion over us with love and compassion, taken care of. I think in the Muslim tradition, it's the Khalifa species, the caretaker species, like that's who we are. So I think every tradition, teachings of compassion is in alignment with a vegan lifestyle, and there's no tradition that says you can't be vegan. You can't do that. You know what I mean? So, like, it's up to an individual to actually look at their values and what their actions are actually doing. You know, most people aren't looking. When they pay that dollar, they're not realizing that they're putting the knife or slitting the throat. Something that's in the documentary and the docuseries probably is something Silas Rao, Dr. Silas Rao, who said was that when what we say is out of alignment with what we do, we suffer. You know,
Yeah.
when we believe that
Right.
we're non-compassionate and we love people. And, at the beginning, like when he first said that in the prayer for compassion, I didn't understand what he was. I was like, that sounds pretty profound, man, but I don't quite get it. But after taking the journey, I've seen all these people suffering, and I know that they're kind, sweet people that would never themselves go up and kill an animal, yet they're
Exactly.
consuming that death and they are suffering from it, from their health, from their emotions, whatever it may be. And we're all suffering because we
Mm.
live on a planet that is being polluted.
So, given that it is Christmas, do you have a Christmas wish?
Hmm. I wish people would look at the Christ energy within all of us and try to live from that, which is about compassion and respect and you know goes beyond Christianity. It goes beyond all of it. It's like what the energy Jesus was teaching. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is mine, this is ours. It was like he's teaching it, and others traditions were teaching it too. They just called it something else. But for Christmas, let's call it the Christ energy. Let's call it the intentions of Jesus of peace and love and joy and forgiveness of ourselves and others. That's
Wow.
another thing too. For activists, one of the things in the docuseries I really tried to emphasize is love yourself, take care of yourself. Like it's easy to walk around looking at this big problem because we're seeing things that most people aren't looking at. Like making that documentary and looking at all the images of the violence just to pull out 2 or 3 seconds from here and there, try not to show the bloody. I had to see
Mhm.
all of it,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So
No.
I hope people will internally like see it happened to me without looking at the violence, and I hope people will tune into that Christ energy that touched my heart way back then, and they'll just wake up and treat each other and themselves with kindness
Mm.
and love. And everybody who's already vegan, man, you're my hero. Pat yourself on the back. Look, you didn't break it. It's not your responsibility to fix it all. We all have our part to play. Meditate, do your part, and let the rest go, man. Live your life. Because here's what when people meet us and they see that we're vegan, we are a representation of what a vegan is to a lot of people. If we're angry, if we're sad, if we're whatever, like they're not going to want any of that, man. Like we're doing good stuff. We deserve to take this
Yeah.
karma and feel good. Like,
Yeah.
and not forget that this is going on and do our part, but we can't live in it. You can't, as an activist, you have to make sure you take time to feed your soul, whatever it may be. For me, music is something that feeds my soul. Like you have to make time for those things.
Yeah. That is such an important takeaway for me to hear because it is easy to fall into that abyss of doom and torture and feel really helpless.
Yeah.
And so it is important to remind ourselves like, okay, I'm doing everything I can do. And
Yeah.
now I do get to smile.
And just plant the seeds. You can't, it's very hard to take somebody from against something to for something, but you plant the seeds. And Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you say and what you do, but they'll remember how you make them feel. Make people feel that vegans are loving, man. Vegans, look, we care for the animals, but we also care for people. Like for me, it's as much for the people as it is for the animals. Like the
Yeah.
suffering I see around me, like that hurts me. And nobody's coming and doing it to them. They're doing it to themselves by the actions that they're taking and participating in an industry that is full of violence and death.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big mission. So I am grateful for the work that you continue to do. And I want to give you an opportunity to tell the audience where to find you and how to follow all the things that you're doing.
Well, we have a prayerforcompassion.com. You can get information about the film, and there's resources there that has links to all kinds of things to help you why to go vegan, how to go vegan, meditation, exercise, all the 4 pillars, all that stuff is at that website. We have Facebook is I'm mainly active on Facebook, and honestly I'm mainly active on my page, and then I just send it out to the Prayer for Compassion, or
Yeah.
I have a band called Sunshine Lemonade. We put out an album this last year, and I have a new documentary I'm working on called No More Monkey Business, live from Bainbridge, Georgia, where I grew up. Bainbridge, this little town, this company's wanting to come in. They're called Safer Human Medicine, and they're wanting to build the biggest monkey breeding facility in the United States, where they would breed up to 30,000 monkeys for scientific research. And they came in and had meetings with all the city officials without it being properly told. Like, you're supposed to like let people know that this is going on, and they voted for it without anybody knowing about it. Then people found out, and the town has come out. It's like crazy. I've never seen anything like it in that town. I went to the first few meetings, and there were people from every walk of life, shoulder to shoulder. There was a scientist from PETA who was explaining how bad the people were in this, and that her 5 minutes was up, and they were like, your time's up, and everybody, the hunters, the farmers, she can have my time, she can have my time. It was like a scene out of a movie. I was like, holy cow, man.
Wow.
I thought I could see the fear in the city council's eyes, too, the councilman's eyes. I thought, this is going to blow over. There's no way. And I was finishing the album at the time, so I thought, this is an interesting story. It's going to blow over. And then this Mother's Day, I was home and discovered it's still going on, and that the Safer Human Medicine just won an appeal at the state Supreme Court level, and that they were planning. They thought they could still break ground, even though there's 3 lawsuits going on. And so I started working on it then. And there's another organization called Species Unite, which came to Bainbridge, and they've made a 25-minute documentary that they released to the public on November 1st. You can find it on YouTube. I think it's called 30,000 Monkeys, and it's wonderful. It tells you everything about why we wouldn't want it there, and it's very informative, and it's wonderful. And but it's still going on. So the documentary I'm working on is really a more personal piece about my connection to the town and the townspeople and how they're changing. I'm trying to get some. One of the people we interviewed has a woman's wellness center, and they do food programs. We're trying to get them to get some vegan workshops going there. And also, everybody I'm interviewing, the reason the people don't want the monkeys there, I get them to tell me all the reasons. Well, the disease, or the pollution of the water, or the animal suffering, the this and that. And then at the end, I said, do you realize that animal agriculture is a very similar, like, he's doing the same thing. I don't rub it in their faces, but I'm just, like I said, I'm kind about it, but I'm like, what do you,
Yeah, yeah.
what do you think? What do you think? Like, so I want to be careful and walk in line, but I definitely want to have a moment in the film that kind of says, look, everybody's come together in outrage over this. Why are we not outraged over something that's doing the exact same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because we like the taste of the hamburger, I guess, This is what I
Yeah.
would think. But I'm hoping that by the time all the court cases are done and all the dust is settled, at least some of the Bainbridge activists may go vegan, and I could tell their stories and kind of inspire people in that way. Because they've
Mm.
inspired me, whether they go vegan or not. Like, every one of those people that show up to those meetings now, like, that town, when it's over, my story is going to be, when this is said and done, and we've run that industry out of town, and they hopefully out of the country, that this town is going to be 100 times better for it.
Yeah. So impressive what you're doing. All right. Well, to wrap up, my final question for you is, I know things in your diet have shifted since you've gone vegan, but would you please tell the audience, these people who are flirting with veganism, who wonder if they'll ever eat a decent meal if they make this big life choice, what is your favorite snack, meal, beverage, something that you can entice the listeners with?
Well, I think everybody has different tastes, but I'll tell you my junk food. I'll tell you my healthy stuff. I just love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and some coffee. Honestly, like, a nice little treat. But
That's good.
I love pastas and stir fries and salads and all kinds of stuff. And honestly, there's so many alternatives, and they're as healthy as animal products. They're not as healthy as plants, but a moderation, having those occasionally is not going to hurt you as well. I mean, I used to have the vegan ice cream and
Yeah.
the vegan, all these things. They're all out there, and still, like, every now and then I'll treat myself to. I don't know if you've heard of Blaze Pizza, but
Yeah.
they do you can make a vegan version,
I haven't been, but there is finally one not that far from me.
and they'll change their gloves and everything, and they'll do a vegan. And they have everything from artichokes to broccoli to onions to roasted garlic to what. I'm like, I build this salad pizza, and they have this vegan chorizo
Ooh,
that's kind of spicy, you know, and so you get a little bit of that processed. They don't put a bunch, a little processed cheese, a little vegan cheese, a little. So if you want a treat, you know,
yeah,
and then I'll just buy one of those occasionally and just have make a big salad and have like a piece of, you know, it'll last me a few meals. And just,
yeah,
if I got a lot going on and I'm gonna get home late at night during the week, I might do something like that occasionally. So that's a treat, but
yeah,
I'm not recommending it as a regular for your health.
yeah.
But for me, the smooth, for health wise, like smoothies, man, they're so good. And fruit at night, like my dessert at night is like dry mango with dry apple with frozen mango and frozen grapes and frozen raspberry, just like snacking like that. Like, ah, I
Right?
love fruit. It's my favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to feel guilty.
Wow.
It's
You
so
can eat all
good.
you want. You know what broke my heart is I was in this, I'm a veteran as well, and I went to this, I go to the VA, and they had this moment where they were doing, I forget what they were calling it. It was like mind and body type courses where people came together. It was right before the quarantine, and they would meet and they would talk about the connection between, you know, they talked a little about meditation, a little bit about conscious eating and stuff. And so I wanted to, I didn't need it, but I wanted to attend to so I could participate and tell
Mhm.
people, hey, man, this is, and there was this one exercise we did where you're supposed to close your eyes and you take this piece of fruit and then you eat slowly, you do this and you taste it like, you know, and when it was over, this one lady, she said, well, I couldn't really do the fruit because I'm diabetic. So I had, and my heart went, oh
Right?
my God,
Right? Classic.
oh my God. So I went to the physician's committee for responsible
Yep.
medicine. They downloaded their diabetes thing and I took it to her and I said, look, it's not fruit. Like, it just broke my heart. Like, she can eat nasty stuff that's not healthy for you, but fruit, you got to watch the sugar in fruit. Like, okay,
Right. You could have chicken breast all day long, but not a banana.
it's crazy.
I know. A good friend of mine is diabetic, and I've been trying to plant seeds. He at least is starting to read a book now, and I was giving him some meal ideas, and I said, pasta, rice, just pile on the vegetables, leave off the meatballs, leave off the chicken. And he said, pasta, really? I said, keep reading that diabetes book that you got. Please keep reading that. It's a good one, and you'll see. It's not the pasta that's the problem. It's the milk in your coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure you know this, and everybody who's listening to this probably knows this too, but you know, when you live in a culture in a country where people profit off of sick people,
Hmm.
there's gonna be people who want people to be sick, you
It's
know?
unfortunate.
You
Yeah.
watch What the Health, you see the connection between the people, the Diabetes Association and the pharmaceutical industry and the meat and dairy industry. I mean, you see that they're all
Yeah, the
working
lady from
together.
the egg council or whoever she was that was like, nope, this is the best food on planet Earth.
We
Okay.
make you sick and we'll sell you something to keep you alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my dad was on statins for 20 something years, you know, it's just, it's a money making industry.
Yeah.
So my thing is, and especially in this time period, wherever you live in the world, like your biggest responsibility is to use discernment, to educate yourself, to not follow blindly. And if you
Hmm.
see that there's an industry that makes billions of dollars off of this thing, question when they start shoving it at you, whether or not it's about money or it's about your health. You know, during the quarantine, I really started nailing things in. You know, I started getting sunlight and meditating and yoga every day outside, and the gut bacteria as well. That all of that's for your immunity. Like that's the biggest thing you can do for yourself is educate yourself and don't follow blindly. Anybody who's making billions of dollars selling you stuff. Somebody said don't buy anything that they advertise or something like. I don't know if that's true, but
Well, you
food
don't see
wise,
Apple commercials, so.
exactly.
All right. Well, Thomas, I am so grateful to you. I wish you a very happy holiday season, a happy new year. I wish you the just the most success with everything you're doing.
Thank you. And before we go, I would just want to give a quick shout out to PETA.
Yes, I saw your
In my
hat.
hat. PETA has really came through for Bainbridge.
Mm.
And there are people there who are hunters and farmers and all who will tell you, thank God for PETA. I went to prayer meetings where they're praying for PETA. You know,
Wow.
like uh, PETA has really stepped up for these people. And I got this, actually got this, in 2019, I was one of the finalists for PETA's Sexiest Vegan Over 50. They sent me this and some other prizes for being a finalist. So,
Isn't that amazing? I love
yeah,
it. Well, thank you and congratulations for that.
it's great
And
hat.
it's fantastic. Yeah, I noticed it from the beginning. All right. Well, thank you and happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. Thank you, Jenny. I enjoyed it.
Wow, isn't Thomas Wade Jackson amazing? You have to check out the documentary, A Prayer for Compassion. The link is in the show notes, or you can find it directly on YouTube. Now, let me get into the juicy bits from the conversation. Number one, we are taught that in order to be a grown up, we have to bury things and set aside our feelings. But the beauty of meditation is that it can help bring those feelings up and out. Number two, we all have distractions and can get sucked into the technology and the busyness of life. So we really need to find a little time each day to tune in. Number three, the four pillars of well being are a whole food plant based diet, exercise, meditation and prayer, something spiritual like that, and sleep. Number four, Thomas gave us 6 amazing reasons to go vegan: the environment, health, social justice, pandemics, animals, obviously, and world hunger. Wow. And I hope you'll go back and listen to that section of the interview because it really was so rich and complex. Number 5, voting with our dollars is the biggest, most important vote we have. Number 6, pretty much from birth, we are indoctrinated into a culture of violence. It becomes acceptable and normal. And as tribal people, we need to do what the community does in order to be included. But let's recognize that we are not living in the tribal societies of thousands of years ago. So if we do have differing opinions, we will not be cast out and left to die. Number 7, judgment doesn't reach anyone, no matter what you're trying to promote or preach. We have to lead with compassion. Number 8, every religion's teaching of compassion is aligned with veganism. And again, check out A Prayer for Compassion, the movie, and you will see exactly what that means. Number 9, when what we say is out of alignment with what we do, we suffer. And that's a quote from Dr. Silas Rao, who is featured in A Prayer for Compassion and many other documentaries. Number 10, Thomas's favorite foods include peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with coffee, pastas, stir fries, salads, smoothies, fruit, fresh and frozen, and also Blaze Pizza, which, by the way, I have been dying to try. And finally, number 11, use discernment and educate yourself, especially when it comes to your health. So I want to thank Thomas Wade Jackson for being on this show and for all of the amazing work you're doing in the world. Thomas, you are a blessing. A couple of things I want to mention before I say goodbye. I want to recommend the book that I told you I suggested to my diabetic friend. That book is Mastering Diabetes, written by Cyrus Kambata. Highly recommend that one. I also want to suggest that everybody watch the documentary What the Health. In addition to Thomas's A Prayer for Compassion, What the Health is so enlightening. And finally, another reminder to join my virtual group program that is starting Tuesday, January 6th and running for 6 weeks. It is a low pressure, compassionate, gentle community environment to help participants learn how to incorporate more plants and reduce animal consumption for the purposes of all the benefits Thomas mentioned, to help the environment, to help health, to help move us away from this very cruel, very brutal animal agriculture industry, to help world hunger and pollution and create an overall sense of love, tranquility, empathy that is greatly lacking right now. So I thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you, the listener, so much. And I'm super excited to welcome you back in 2 weeks for my thrilling conversation with author, influencer, activist, and overall fabulous human, Kathy Freston. That will be the New Year's episode on January 7th. I wish you a beautiful holiday season, a very happy new year, and it's with a heart full of gratitude and a fridge full of veggies. I send you peace, love, and chickpeas. Mwah!